Hi guys and welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Coach Yoann and I am so glad you are here. This is another episode of the basics of day trading and today we are going to talk about the SMA and the EMA. What is it? What does this acronym means? And let's see some example. Let's go. Alright guys, so you should be able to see my screen now. This is the chart of SPX on a daily and I have a few indicators here, but we'll talk about those later. Today I want to focus on two things, an SMA and an EMA. So before we dive into it, I want to teach you what does this mean, an SMA and an EMA. So let's go into the definition. An SMA is basically a simple moving average. That's what the acronym stands for. It is basically a simple average price over a specific period of time. So as the average price value incline or decline, basically the value change, right? So does the line. So it's forming a line basically. So for the calculation, it's very simple, but I want to keep it even more simple because if we dig into the calculation too much, I don't want this to be too complicated. As you're a beginner, I want to keep that very simple and sexy. So calculation is simple. It's the sum of the stock's closing price during a period of time, like I said, divided by the number of observation of that period of time. So for example very easy. If I create a 9-day SMA, a 9-day simple moving average is just the sum of the closing price for the past 9 trading days divided by 9. As easy as this. So let me show you here. I have actually I have one SMA. I have the simple moving average here for the 200. So it means that for the past 200 days, right? That's the sum of the closing price for SPX divided by 200. As easy as this, right? Now that is it for SMA. Now you know what it is. So now let's go into the exponential moving average, what we call an EMA. So EMA, once again, stands for exponential moving average, is very similar to the simple moving average we just spoke about, the SMA. However, so they both basically measure a trend direction over a period of time, but the EMA gives a little bit more weight into the recent price, a little bit more recent data. I don't want to go into the calculation because it's legit more complex. It's slightly more complex than an SMA. But just think about how an EMA is basically weighing more calculation behind it of recent data to predict that, not to predict, but just to move as the value of the stock change, basically. So that's what it is. So let's go into an example here. I have an EMA over here, the 9 EMA, which is that red line, that yellow line. So as you see the stock decline, basically, this is following through very well, and then we go back up, a little bit sideways, and then go back up here, and then sideways, etc., up again. So you can see the stock is going back up, down, up here, and the EMA is following it, okay? So now I have the 9 or EMA, right? Which is, I don't go into calculation, but it's basically the sum of the closing price for the past 9 trading days divided by 9 plus other stuff into it. That will make everything complicated, so I don't want to add you more on your plate. But it basically is more complicated, more implicating more data of the recent data to weight on that price. That's what it is. Now the question is, why do people use those, right? So let me explain you briefly. Well, there is two types of moving averages. The first one is an SMA, simple, and the second one is an EMA, exponential. And basically, you will see that traders are using them to kind of guide or have them as a support or resistance, right? So it basically means that they will see, let's say, the 9 EMA as a trend, like anything above the 9, for example, will go higher, everything below will eventually go lower, or maybe anything approaching the 200 SMA approaching it, right? So this way, going like this over here, everything approaching it might be like, oh, maybe overbought, so if we hit it, we might go lower, or anything passing and crossing above it, like this over here, right? We passed it, we closed above with that candle here. Eventually, that means that we're gonna go even higher, etc., depending on your view, on your technical analysis, on your fundamentals, whatever you want to call it. your strategy basically, depending on that. Now, do people use more EMA on a short term or long term, and or SMA on a short term and long term? Well, I'm going to tell you personally what I do. I like to have an EMA on the short term because it weighs in more data, like I said, in a price, right? In a moving of the price, therefore, in a calculation of it. So therefore, I think it's a little bit more accurate on a short term. Now, SMA is accurate as well, but because the EMA is more weighted in calculation and recent data versus historical data, I prefer it because I think he moves a little bit better, if I may say. However, I do love the SMA, simple moving averages, on the long term. Why? Because they are just simple and they can give you like a long-term, trend, saying like, hey, I mean, to me, as an example for myself, I'd be like, all right, my 200 SMA is like, let's say here, right? That red, that's the 200 SMA here. So to me, it's like, we're obviously in a downtrend, but like, for example, here, back in the 28th of, let me see, what is that? That is the 30th of November 2022, 30th of November 2022, excuse me. That would be, to me, risky because we are approaching the 200 SMA on a daily. So if, let's say, I was long here, I would have been very careful at this time here, right? But also there is a gap, as you can tell here. So, I mean, we can talk about gap another day. But yeah, so that's what it is, guys. That's most likely a guide for me, right? Of support or resistance on the long term for an SMA. Anything EMA for me personally is just on a short-term trading. I hope it helps. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. I try to do a good job explaining it simply, even though it can be complicated. Please like, subscribe, go on coachoutyoann.com and hit me up if you have any question. I'll be happy to help. Thank you so much and have a good day. Bye-bye.